Welcome to Road to Redline, the #1 Porsche and Car podcast celebrating the people and the stories behind the world's finest sports cars. Road to Redline is presented by YouTuber and magazine editor Lee Sibley, serial owner and columnist Joe Williams, and 993 owner Andy Brookes. Three enthusiasts on a mission to open doors and bring you the best stories, secrets, and exclusives from the world of Porsche. Hey chaps, how are you?
Very well. Good. How you doing?
How are we?
Excellente. So it's the penultimate show of Road to Redline for Series 3.
It is.
Yep.
And it's a guest panelist episode, which always seems to go down well. We enjoy those, don't we?
Indeed.
And today's guest is Mr. Max Newman. I'm actually going to say he's possibly, because he's involved in the Porsche industry, really, although it's a vocation for him, I'd say he's probably the nicest guy in the Porsche industry. Certainly one of.
Bloody nice chap.
Bloody nice chap. Stellar bloke. He really is. So I'm sure people listening at home will really enjoy his input to the pod. Who is Max? Well, he is a Living the Legend columnist for Total 911 magazine. He's been doing that for the last year or so. He's got 2 911s, which we'll find out what they are shortly. He runs his own Cars and Coffee called 9 is Fine. I think that's Buckinghamshire way. Can't remember.
Yeah.
But some really, got some really good traction on that in terms of guests pre-COVID. And he's also now started a Porsche-inspired artwork sideline, which again, the three of us love, don't we? So we're sure people at home, it will resonate with them as well. And that's it for now. We'll get Max on and let him explain his story in full before we put some non-Porsche questions to him and us.
Excellent.
It's all non-Porsches tonight, isn't it?
Yes, very much, for a change. Because we're inclusive.
All right, let's get them on.
Max, welcome to Road to Redline.
Thank you.
I suppose you should probably tell us a little bit about who you are and why you're on the podcast, what you drive, what you have driven. Is that a good place to start?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've managed to get invited to podcasts because I've been a real pest over the last few years. I'm probably best described as a lifelong Porsche obsessive. I've got a 997 that I've had for 9 years, and a couple of years ago I was getting a bit riled by all this Pro 996 stuff that Lee was peddling through the magazine, and because everybody knows that the 997 is better inside out, and because of the world of social media and all that sort of thing, you get access to people like Lee. They can't hide behind the editorial desk. So I started to. I think I sent some it was actually quite obnoxious. I sent some sort of message along the lines of, I know you've got all this 996 copy coming out, all this Pro 996 stuff. But next year, when you've got through that and you're doing Pro 997 stuff, I've got a really nice one and I'd like to be involved. So let me know.
Was it as nice as that, Max? Was it? When I first got your correspondence, I thought you were fluent in French. So,
so Lee sort of sent a very polite reply message back saying, okay, nice to hear from you, all that sort of thing. But then you did just get in touch with me one day saying, right, we're doing something 997. Can you come to this monument in the middle of nowhere near Wantage next Friday with your car, and we're going to do something? So I was like, yeah, all right then. I followed up, and you were there with your 996 C4S at the time, and Louis Ruff came along in his red 997 C4S, and Kyle turned up, and we did a feature. I've been bothering you ever since.
I like that you're called the Porsche pest. And that's what I'm going to call you forevermore now.
The Porsche
pest. Stick.
I think I might set up a new Instagram that's called Porsche Pest. I think that could be quite a good one.
Then your bio on that could just be, no need to follow me, I'm already following you.
I think it could be. So, but I came to my 997, that was it was a realization of a dream thing. I was born into a car family. My dad's a massive car guy. And I grew up as a massive car guy, and I always wanted a Porsche 911. I'm into all sorts of cars, not just. I tend to try to say that I'm a car enthusiast first and a Porsche guy second, but I think these days I am pretty much a Porsche obsessive.
Yes.
But I like all kinds of stuff. My dad's a vintage sports car club guy. He had old Austin 7s. So, we used to go to vintage sports car club meets. So I'm into all that sort of thing as well. But I always wanted a Porsche 911. And, I tried to do the get a 911 by 30 thing that, lots of us do and some people do. I bought a house instead. So, age 36, I got this, I went through all of the IMS and RMS anxiety. And in the end decided that, if I bought a car from somewhere like Paragon, I might have half a chance of not being ruined by it financially if, things weren't pear-shaped, or I'd have a good chance of getting a decent car in the first place. So I went for it.
How did that work out? Because obviously, maybe you can later rest the IMS 997 Gremlin.
Well, I spent a lot of time looking on the internet, and I was in that position where you feel like every car that's for sale of the type that you're interested in, and you make decisions about things without ever looking at them. And I was reading all the stuff on piston heads, I guess, as it was at the time, and I sort of realised that if you spend too much time looking at the internet stuff, you can talk yourself out of doing anything. Yeah. So I thought what I need to do is try and buy a good car in the first place, and buy it from somewhere where I've got, maybe some kind of recourse or at least a bit of support by way of a warranty. And Paragon seemed to fit that mould. And when the car came up, it was one of those things that came up on, I think the Thursday before Good Friday in 2012. I was off to Woolacombe on a surfing trip. And I got in touch with Paragon, and I got Jamie. And I said, I've seen this car, I really want to come and look at it. Please don't sell it over Easter. He was like, yeah, okay, all right. So I went down on my trip to Woolly, and I came back on Monday, got in touch with him on the Tuesday. He hadn't sold it. I don't think he kept it. So I bossed it down there and had a look at it. And I decided to buy it. And as you know, at Paragon, you pay sticker at Paragon. But what Mark and Jamie did agree to do was give me a 2-year warranty rather than a 1-year warranty. Yeah. And what that did was give me some of the comfort, because I was going all in on this buy. I paid $26,995 for a 2004 997 C2. So a really early, I think it was registered on the 26th of September, 2004. So it was a Carrera 2, or it is a Carrera 2. So that made it a bit more affordable rather than an S. And some people said that the 3.6 doesn't have so many bore scoring issues and things as the 3.8 and all of that sort of thing. But it, I could afford it. I was going to spend all of my money. But I thought, if something does go wrong, then, I feel like Paragon and I are in it together. So let's go for it. I think 48,000 miles on it. I was buying it as a daily. It's now 106,000 miles. 9 years later, it gets over-serviced. It gets annual service. The service interval went from 1 year, 12,000 miles, which I guess is what your 996 is, Lee. It's an annual service regardless of how many miles I've done. I tried not to, even though it was a daily, I tried not to do really short journeys in it, tried to make sure it always went through a heat cycle, all those kind of sensible things. And, touch wood, I think they'd put a new clutch in it for some reason, not long before. They sold it to the guy who had it before. He'd sold it back to them because he was buying an R8 or something like that. So they knew a bit about it. It had a new clutch in it, so it had been apart. But since I bought it, that's it. The engine hasn't been apart. It hasn't even had another clutch yet. It's, hopefully a good one.
Max, tell us about this, or share the story with us, with you and your dad, when you took the 911 and showed it to him for the first time. So really nice story. Yeah.
So, he gets the credit for getting me into cars. He's a Porsche guy. He had a few things. He had first he went through some kit cars and that sort of thing. He had Austin 7s, and but he was into the German car thing. We had a Mark 1 Golf, normal Mark 1 Golf L. That was pretty cool. Then we got a brand new Mark 2 Golf GTI, a C-Reg one, Atlas grey with the Pirelli wheels. That was our family car. That was pretty cool. And then we got a Golf VR6 when they came out, Mark 3 VR6. That's terrible. it's a big thing for us. So I've been talking to him a lot about it. I was running a BMW 130i at the time, so the 3-door hatch, but 3-litre straight six, 261 brake horsepower, manual box, cracking car. But I bought that because I at the time I'd left a job where I had a company car, so I'd had some Golfs and Beamers and that sort of thing. Cool. I got this new job, company car allowance, no scheme. And at that point, I just wasn't quite brave enough, partly because it was a new job, to go all in on the Porsche. I bought this Beamer. And it was only about a year later that I had the confidence to actually go for it with the Porsche. So I've been talking about it with my dad, but I didn't tell him about it. At that point, he was running a 996 at the time. He'd previously, he had an old 944 for a little while that he tried to sell me at one point, actually, which I thought was a bit harsh, rather than giving it to me. So I declined that because I didn't really want a 944, mainly because it's a 4-cylinder. I was interested when you guys were debating the does 4 cylinders matter thing with the 718. It really does matter to me. So I wasn't really interested in his 944 because of that. And he had a 3.2 Carrera for a little while as well, actually, which was a bit of a shed.
You're throwing your old man right under the bus.
Right under the bus.
There's a theme here.
So, although, to be fair to him, he did let me drive it, but before I had a driving licence, and I did spin it. It's not all bad. But by this time, it's just some years later. So he's got this 996 living up in Norfolk. So I went down to Paragon on Friday afternoon. So this is 20th of April, 2012, and traded in my 130, which was a disaster financially because I'd only bought it a year before, paid top dollar from a BMW dealer. And then I got absolutely skinned on the trade-in, of course, because that's the way it goes. But it was just part of the journey that was facilitating this Porsche. So I took it on the chin. So picked the car up from Paragon and drove straight up to Norfolk, up to my dad's house. So he wasn't expecting me. He didn't know that I was going to be in the car. So I pulled up outside his house, parked up next to his 996, and he came to the window because he'd heard, he's always listening out for interesting cars going past. He nearly fell out the window. He was so excited. He was absolutely cock-a-hoop. He could not believe it. Oh. It was a really nice moment, actually. It was a really nice moment. But that was quite different from, because I was going actually up to stay with my sister at her cottage up in Norfolk. So I then went, after having a great time with my dad talking about it, I then went over to my sister's. And she came out of her house and said, "Well, it's about time." That was her reaction.
Is that because you've been talking about it forevermore?
Because I've been talking about it forever, and because she and her other half, they wanted one as well, and I beat them to it. So her competitive side meant that she didn't like that. In fact, she later said that she could no longer have one because I had one, which seems a bit silly from her point of view. But anyway, so that's what she said. And then my mum arrived the following day, and her first reaction was, "Is this wise?" Because she's very financial focused. So they were the different reactions from my family. But with my dad, which is the most important thing, it was quite a special moment, actually.
That's really cool. Really cool story.
So now you've got 2 in the collection, haven't you?
Now I've got two. So I ran the 997 as my only car for nearly 3 years. So I did, I think, 17,000 miles in the first year. I put it onto winters, put it onto Pirelli Sotta Zeros, took it to Italy, ran it all over the winter. Then I did similar mileage the following year. And then ever since then, because I met Mandy and she had a bigger driveway than me, I was able to potentially have a second car. Because I lived in the centre of Reading with only one parking space, so I was limited to one car. So of course it's going to be a 911. But she had a bit more room at her house, so I was able to buy other cars, and that's what enabled me to use the 911 a bit less, and it become more of a sort of cared for. Well, not that I wasn't caring for it anyway, but it became more of a sort of fun car.
I thought you were going to say that's what attracted you to it.
The driveway.
I tell you what, it did put her off me. She was not impressed by the fact I had a Porsche when I first met her. I think one of her mum's old boyfriends had a Porsche of some description, like a 928 or something like that, a front engine car, and she hadn't liked him.
So because of that, she didn't really like blokes with Porsches. So I did arrive at her house in it, and didn't really interest her at all. So I think she has a bit of an appreciation for it now. But like all of us, I'm always thinking about other cars and playing, 3-car, 5-car, 10-car dream garage and all of that kind of thing. So we continued on the journey, and we had the BMWs, and we had a Golf and all of that sort of thing. And when we went into lockdown last year, we were running the 997. We were running a 335i Touring BMW, which is really nice. 6-cylinder, petrol, estate, automatic, perfect. And we'd ended up with a Golf R as well, which was also really nice. And when we were in lockdown, I thought, God, what am I going to do here? The arse had fallen out of my ISA fund, and it was all a big disaster. And I thought, as soon as this fund comes back, I'm going to spend some money on a Porsche. I need to spend more time driving Porsches in case I'm dead by Christmas. Because it was a strange time then, wasn't it? You just didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So I started looking, and I was talking to Lee. I was like, what's the route? And I've written about this in T911 in my Living the Legend column, and it just struck me that if I was going to pitch it to Mandy on the basis that we could get rid of the Golf and I could buy another Porsche, that it was going to have to deliver as a daily.
The man maths.
Exactly. So, it's got to deliver as the second family car, as well as being a 911 and doing all the fun things that does. So a 991 seemed perfect because I could get, decent auto PDK, decent tech, all of that kind of thing. So I started hunting for a 991. I was pretty relaxed about whether it was fixed head or drop top, to be honest, because I think they look great as a convertible.
Agreed.
And, I have to admit, I nearly bottled it when it came to it, because we were in September by this point and things were looking a bit brighter. And I thought, God, is this a sensible thing to do? But, but I thought I've got to have the courage of my convictions, because, in April, when I'd had those thoughts, I was absolutely resolute that was what I was going to do. And I thought, let's, just carry on with this, do it. And the Golf is probably one of the best cars that I've ever owned, but it wasn't one that I really looked forward to driving. Yeah. I don't know if it's because it's a 4-cylinder, so you don't get that all excitement. I mean, it's a great car, but I wasn't sad to let it go. This 991 came up at RPM. I was looking for a silver car with a black interior, or a black car, because that's what I like, black car with silver wheels. Definitely wanted a dark interior, black, because the compromise I've made on the 997 was that it's got a stone grey interior, which I've never particularly liked. I love everything else. I love the wheels, love the basalt black. Everything else, it ticked the box. So I thought I'm definitely going to get a black interior this time. So I bought a brown 911 with a with a light interior from RPM, and that's what I've got on the driveway now. I've got a anthracite brown metallic 991.1 C2S with a 2-tone agate and pebble grey interior, which is an absolute nightmare to keep clean. I have real anxiety about it, but the car's fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
I think that's a great looking colour combo, and it's weird because you're gonna hate me for saying this. A few years ago, I think a few people might have considered that a bit of a dad spec car.
Yeah, slipper spec, as Editor Sibley would say.
That's probably fair, isn't it?
I need to address this, because there's been a few clips that I've seen, certainly on Instagram, that you've tagged me and Max with, and it's been, the caption has been, my slipper spec 911, and I'm thinking, I'm the only one tagged in this. Is there sort of like a subliminal message going on? And I can't remember saying it, so if you're going to tell me off, I feel you need to do it now. It was on this very podcast. It must have been in season 1. Yeah.
I can't remember exactly what you guys were talking about, but it went on to brown 911s or something like that, or a particular car. Maybe it'd been a press car or something. I don't know.
Is that when you stopped listening for a few months?
Yeah, I was offended. And during that conversation, that's where the slipper spec thing came out.
Oh, right.
So it was probably an offhand comment, but it cut deep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've wondered why you've not been returning the calls, so that makes sense.
I mean, it's a great looking car. It really is absolutely stunning. Absolutely. You know, I'd actually overlooked it. I'd seen it on the RPM website. I mean, you know what it's like when you start looking really seriously for cars, you know, as you found, Joe, recently, when you were looking for stuff, when you're thinking, right, what am I actually going to hand over money for? The pool of cars goes down to, you know, a tiny amount. Yeah. So I'd overlooked this car at RPM because of the light interior. I thought that's not what I want. But I went back to look at it. I was looking at the spec and I thought, man, the spec is actually really, really nice.
What's good about the spec?
Only half an hour away from me. Well, one of the things is it's got DAB radio, and that sounds like
I thought you said DAB radio.
Well,
I realised
you might think I'd like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that sounds like an odd thing to prioritise when you're looking at a Porsche 911, but because it's in this category where it has to be the second family car, and I could be driving to Norwich and back in it for work and that sort of thing. I listened to the radio. I listened to digital radio. And when the 991 came out, or that era of Porsche production, digital radio wasn't standard, you know, on Boxsters or Caymans or 911s. It was a £261 option. And I'm not sure in 2011 or 12, even I would have spec'd it. And then it became standard, I think, on so after the summer break, production cars, so late 2013, 2014 model year cars.
There's cars that missed out on the Bluetooth phone prep for that reason. That's an option,
exactly.
And some people forgot to tick the box. And you got some really, really big money cars that don't have any Bluetooth prep for your phone, which is
exactly. So I was looking at lots of stuff because that's the you know, the part of the 991 market I was looking at is the early cars. So, you know, that really limited my search. And then the other thing I noticed that it had was I'd been to drive a Macan Turbo actually earlier on during lockdown, because I thought another route to more Porsche driving is to get rid of the BM and get a Macan, because I've always fancied a Macan. So I saw this Macan Turbo up in the Midlands and went to have a drive in it on a really hot day, and it had ventilated seats, and they were amazing. It's like when you open the fridge on a hot day and you get that wall of cold air that comes out, and it's lovely to think I'll stand here all day. It was like that. So I've always had an eye on ventilated seats, and this 991's got ventilated as well as heated seats. So, you know, things were ticking up. It's, you know, it's chrono, it's got switchable exhaust, it's got these ventilated seats, it's got DAB radio, you know, all these really nice things. I thought I've got to at least go and have a look at it. And just see how I feel about the spec when I get there. Because I thought, you know, this is the sort of way you'd spec a Bentley Continental GT, isn't it? Not a 911. Yeah. So I might get there, and maybe it'll be too much of a pension spec or a slipper spec car, and I won't want it. So I went to have a look at it, and it was a sunny day, and Alex Cooper brought it out of the showroom, and it looked fantastic. I thought, yeah, I'll put up with light interior just because the car looks so good.
Going back to where we started, I was gonna finish my sentence with, but I think brown is actually really cool now.
It is.
In general, I think, yeah, it's come right round, isn't it? And it's like even a lot of new cars are rolling out the showroom in similar sort of colour, which I think makes it doesn't date your car as much, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite an interesting thing to, you know, have a talking point in what is an otherwise ordinary, in inverted commas, Porsche. You know, it's not a limited production car, it's not a GT car, it's not, you know, it's got none of those, you know, cars and coffee talking points. But anthracite brown, you know, it's there can't be many of them that were spec'd in that colour. It was quite inexpensive. It was $1,805, so it was one of the more expensive, you know, sub PTS options, and there aren't many. So I thought, you know, that's one of the appealing things about it.
I would say, Max, and I don't know this for sure, so you might be able to offer some clarification on it, but that was only available for that one model year?
Yes. I have tried to do some research about the model year, because it was listed as by RPM as macadamia metallic. And I had my doubts about it. And actually, when I bought it, Will Lee, PTSRS on Instagram, he got in touch with me and said, I don't think that's macadamia, because I thought maybe macadamia is different on the 991 than it was on a 997 and an old KN and that sort of thing. I thought maybe the colour had evolved. And he messaged me and said, I don't think it's macadamia, I think it's anthracite. So, I had a look at the paint code, and it is anthracite. So I then started to look at colours of model years and that sort of thing. And I'm not sure if I found the actual true answer on that, but I think you're right. I don't think macadamia was an option when my car was optioned, and anthracite is, but as you say, it didn't last for very long, I don't think.
I'm a fan of brown cars. I've had a couple in the past. I had a Scirocco Storm, Mark II Scirocco Storm in brown, and a Mini Clubman in brown. So yeah, I'm down with the brown. It's all good.
Go on, my son.
I think that's a different podcast, Andy.
Yeah.
That's the other one.
Yeah. Oh, now we segue to a word from our sponsor.
Down with the brown.
It all went downhill quick, didn't it?
Yeah. Sorry, let's bring the subject back round, shall we?
Max, I wanted to ask you about your crazy access to some pretty special Porsche race cars. Tell us about that.
Okay. So that's the Group C stuff.
Yes.
Okay. So part of my Porsche obsession, my Porsche pesting is around the Group C era. I was born in '76, so Group C was a thing for me. And in '87, my dad and I, credit to my dad again for this one, we went on a Page and Moy coach trip to Le Mans. So I think we got the train from Colchester in Essex, where we lived, into King's Cross. And then we went somewhere, maybe Victoria bus station, and got the Page and Moy coach out to Le Mans. And we had to sleep on the coach because I couldn't stay up all night because I was, 10 or 11 or however old I was then.
Brilliant.
11. But that was a year when the works were running Rothman's sponsored cars. Derek Bell was driving the 17 car, and they won. So, that had quite a big impact on me. So that really got me going on Group C cars. It was also the year that the 961 ran. And it was the year that it ran in Rothman's colours. So that's the 959 sort of Group B racing car. Lee probably knows more about that car than I do, but in Rothman's colours, it looked mega. So that had quite an impact on me as well. So always went into Group Cs. That's a really, that's sort of mine. If people say, what's the greatest race car for you? A lot of people say 917. I say 956, 962, without hesitation.
Yeah.
So I've always been interested in them. And I saw on Facebook one day, a friend of mine posted a picture of a Rothman's 962 on an industrial estate near where we live. And I sent him a message. I said, what's this car? Why is it there? And he said, I just saw it. I was going to the tip. And I went past and I saw this car. So I spoke to the guy and he said, yeah, it's a Le Mans car and all of that kind of thing. So I started Googling and researching and that sort of thing. And I found out the name of the company and the guy who was running it, Trev Crisp. And I got in touch with him. Again, the power of social media, seeing it in a positive way. I got in touch with him and we got chatting. And eventually, after I'd pestered him enough, he invited me over. So I went over, and at the time, I can't remember what he had in, mostly things in bits. Actually, I think the Rothman's car had gone at that point. But anyway, he had a 997 Gen 1 at the time, and we hung out, and he started coming to the Cars and Coffee that I run. So we struck up a bit of a friendship. And it's really come from that, really. He knows how much I'm into it. I think he enjoys the enthusiasm that I have for it because they're just old race cars to him, just metal that he works on. And, he's Mr. Group C, Trev Crisp. And he invited me to Goodwood Speed Week where he was running a couple of cars. So I got the chance to meet one of the owners, who's also become a friend of mine. So I just get the chance to take pictures of them. And now that's turned into an Instagram account and a photography print business in inverted commas, passion project.
Yeah.
And that's so exciting for me, because these are the dream racing cars, the unobtainium stuff of my childhood. And now I get up close.
Well, I think it would be prudent of you, Max, to drop in at this point what the Instagram handle is and stuff, because I'm sure there'll be listeners that will want to get involved with that.
Yeah. So what I've called it is Group C, actually. But the way that it's spelt is, and this comes from actually the 959 concept, where they use the German spelling Gruppe, Gruppe, and rather than the letter C, it's C as in SWE, because it's it's a visual thing, because it's about selling prints and photography and that sort of thing. So the handle is Group C, Gruppe SWE.
Excellent.
And I've had that running for 3 weeks now, I think, maybe a month. I mean, it's hard. Starting Instagram from scratch is hard. I've forgotten how hard it is. Got like 150 followers or something, and every one's feels like a victory.
You might have a few more after this, I reckon.
well, maybe. I hope so. Well, if people like it.
So is it all photography you've taken yourself? I know obviously some of it is illustration stuff as well, isn't it? What's the deal?
Yeah. So I've always been into taking pictures of cars mostly. We had a Canon SLR when I was a kid, and so when we went to Vintage Sports Car Club and Silverstone and anything else we went to, I'd take lots of pictures, which I need to scan and share at some point. So I've always been into it, and I'm not saying I'm that good at it, but I take a better picture than some people do. Mm-hmm. and you get some nice feedback, and you think, okay, maybe people would like it. So I've got this stock of pictures, but I'm not very technical. I can't Photoshop. I'm not a creative, but I had some ideas about things that I'd like to do with the pictures. And I met another guy, a Porsche friend of mine. He was introduced to me by another guy, an old client of mine who's a Porsche guy. And he's a graphic designer, design is his business. And he and I hit it off. And I said to him, he said some nice things about my pictures. Hugh is his name, Hugh Tarpey. And I said, Hugh, I've got these ideas about creating prints from my photographs, by tidying them up, but I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And I'd also like to create some sort of graphic art, because on my wall at home, I have some stuff by Guy Allen that I really like, but not Group C. And I have some stuff by Automobilist that I really like, but again, it's not Group C. So I couldn't find any Group C graphic artwork that I wanted to put on the wall. So Hugh and I got talking, and he said, send me some of your pictures and I'll do something with them. So I sent him some stuff over, and he photoshopped some of my pictures just to tidy them up, to make them look really nice. And he started to create this graphic art. So taking the 956, say, out of one of my pictures and then creating a print around it. Yeah. So Group C is he and I. It's Hugh and I, Hugh and Cry. So it's my picture. So everything's based on a picture that I've taken, and it's either been photoshopped a little bit by Hugh to tidy it up, or he's then taken the image and taken it in a whole other direction and created these cool prints from it.
Awesome. Cool.
So these are you up and running yet? Are these actually available to purchase? Is that the plan?
Yeah, they are. I mean, it's all a bit it's all a bit Heath Robinson at the moment. I thought I'd be able to set up an Instagram shop. I thought that would be an easy thing to do. Well, that would be a good way of doing it. But I haven't got enough followers on Group C to be allowed to have a shop. So then I thought, well, I'll have to set up a website. So I asked a friend of mine, and he said, yeah, do a Squarespace one. So I'm in the process of building a Squarespace website. But as I say, that's not really my bag, and I'm finding that quite difficult. So at the moment, I'm kind of relying on people commenting on the pictures and saying they really like it. Then I send them a message saying, well, if you'd like one, this is what we do. We do A2, A3, this is what it costs, and all that sort of thing. So, and there's a little bit, we've, so I sold one yesterday, actually, one of the Rothmans prints I sold yesterday. So that's on its way up to Merseyside. I've got another one that I'm going to deliver next week is really nice. One of the cars that Trev knows from old and has recently restored was run by Richard Lloyd. So the Richard Lloyd racing story is a great British Porsche racing and Porsche enthusiast story. They ran Group C cars through the 80s. They started off, I think, with the 924 GTR. And I saw that car racing at Brands Hatch in 1989, and then it famously appeared on Top Gear. Tiff Nadell testing it, and I recorded it on VHS and watched it over and over because Derek Bell was in it as well, and all that sort of thing. So that's one of the most exciting things about getting to know Trevor, is that I've been able to get up close with that car because he's been restoring it over the last few years. So one of the printers got that car in it, and somebody contacted me on Instagram and said, that's a great car. It's a lovely picture. I'd like to buy it. Which I was a bit surprised about. I thought, oh, brilliant. And it turns out that he's Richard Lloyd. And sadly, Richard Lloyd he died in 2008. But this is his son-in-law. Mm. So, and he really likes the print and he's going to put it on the wall. So I'm just waiting to get it from the printers and then I'll go and see him with it. So That's a really nice thing.
Yeah.
But whether it becomes a commercial thing in its own right or not, who knows?
Yeah. Would I be right in saying one of the cars is the car that Mike Wilds has been driving of late as well? You've got some photos of.
Yes, So that's right. Yeah, the Kenwood car, 956101, which was the first customer delivered 956. It was ordered by Alan de Cadenet, but was actually delivered to the Kramer brothers. So Kramer ran it at Le Mans. Well, they ran it throughout 1983, but they ran it at Le Mans in that blue Kenwood livery with the Andrettis and Philippe Alliot, and it finished third. So that makes it quite a special car, and that makes a special car even more special in terms of provenance. And then it went off and did other things in different liveries, but it's still quite an original car. It didn't race for 20 years, and it was for sale at Max de Page. And Trevor helped the guy who bought it, a German enthusiast who bought it. He helped him with that process, and he got it race ready. So the owner, Rainer, and Mike Wilds raced it at Monza at the Peter Auto event during the summer, and they also took it to Goodwood for Speed Week. So when Trevor invited me to Speed Week, they had that car there, so I was able to meet the owner, and he was actually the first person who asked to buy one of the Group C pictures, because the first thing that we actually did is just a picture of the front and rear bodywork in a pit garage at Silverstone a couple of years ago when I first met him. And Hugh tidied it up a little bit, photoshopped it a little bit so it just looks a bit neater. And I posted it. It was the first post on Group C. And Ryan got in touch and said that he'd like it. So
it's a nice start.
really nice start. So I was able to get it framed, and I took it down to Reiner's, and that's how I ended up going out in his 1955 550 Spider as well, which is a whole other story. But he's a great guy. He's a great enthusiast, and I really enjoyed the podcast with Mike actually when he was talking about that. By getting that thing around the parabolica with his arms locked. Yeah. And I'm working on a print for Mike actually. He'd like one of that car, so I'm just working out what's the right thing for him.
Excellent. So are you doing some stuff sort of to order then? So if there's a specific car that someone wants in a certain way, is that the idea that you can tweak it if need be, or you do everything off the shelf?
It sort of needs to be off the shelf really, because if I haven't taken a picture of it, then we haven't got something to sort of start from. Cool. It just so happens that the owner of the car was customer number one, and and Mike's driving the car, so it's all quite helpful for me at the moment that it's people who are interested in the cars that I've got pictures of rather than vice versa. Yeah,
perfect. Well, exciting stuff. I think that's I think you're gonna have a whole load of people head on over and see what you're talking about.
Yeah, I hope so. Please come and check it out. I'll put some stuff up. I mean, it's been quite Group C heavy for the first few weeks, but I did post some stuff this morning of some nice 911 pictures, just some stuff that I had that I've taken at Best Heritage over the last few years. So some nice early 997 stuff. Sorry, early 911 stuff.
Right. Should we dive into a bit of a chat about something a bit different tonight? So we were thinking about going polar opposite and canning the 911 for the night, and imagining that that Porsche never existed, or they shut up shop forever and withdrew every car from the universe. And what's the garage going to look like from this point going forwards? So I think there's no hard and fast rules. I thought it might be interesting to have a think about, an alternative daily, an alternative sports car, and then possibly an alternative retro / classic, the weekend garage car. So I'd love to hear if anyone's got any ideas on their list of what they might be shopping for tomorrow if Porsche disappeared.
What's the difference between retro and classic?
Retro, I was thinking might be like a Mark 1
80s,
Golf.
90s, yeah.
It's the sort of 80s, 90s, yeah, exactly that, 80s, 90s sort of stuff.
A classic is older.
A classic being, what I think we'd all properly call classic. But
okay.
You can blur the lines. There's no hard and fast rules.
Awesome.
Okay.
Who wants to go first? Who's going to throw something in the ring? What are you thinking?
I'll go in on the daily. Really boring, really obvious, but I really want one. RS6 Avant. Why would you not have one of those?
They get some. They've got a good rep, haven't they? Lots of people rave about them.
I think through all of the generations, I've always wanted it. From the first V8 one, the V10 one, I've always liked them.
Mm. If you turn the clock back slightly, is it the RS4 Avant? Is that where it all kind of...
RS2.
S2.
It started with.
S2, yeah. Sorry, my
RS2.
Audi knowledge is limited. But I remember they came in a certain blue, and I was quite obsessed with that for a while.
Yeah.
Nogaro blue.
Nogaro blue, yeah. I had an S4 in Nogaro blue. Love that colour.
Good looking car, that.
Yeah.
And the RS2...
That's the one that got me in trouble.
I mean, you probably couldn't have an RS2 because that's probably too close to Porsche, isn't it? Because the RS2 wouldn't exist, would it, Lee, if it wasn't for Porsche?
That's true. Yeah.
Because it was a joint project.
Very good. Very good. Yeah.
So that's out. Cool cars, though.
Cool car.
Really cool.
RS6 works, I think. That's definitely a good practical daily, isn't it?
Or what about, I tell you what I saw for the first time at the weekend. I saw the new Defender, but a short wheelbase one.
I'm a big fan of those. There was one up the road the other day, and I'm trying to convince my other half to get into one of those. And at the moment, she's not quite having any of it.
Yeah, I think they're quite cool.
I think it's a cool car. Especially, is it the 90? What's the
short wheelbase one. Yeah, that's what I saw on Saturday. First time I'd seen one. Really cool.
Yeah.
Still enormous, but very cool.
Massive, aren't they?
Do you know what I would go for as because a daily I've put here E92 M3 because just does kind of everything. And I quite like BMW M cars. But so for a sports car, I'd just go all out with something fairly crazy. I'd get a Lotus Elise Cup. Well, I've just had a look at the current Lotus range, and I just think, just get a top Lotus that is going to be absolutely hilarious to drive for a Sunday, or tracks, but for everything else, a complete and utter pain in the arse. It would therefore negate the idea of using it, and then you'd go back to the M3 or the classical retros that will come to
That's really interesting. So I put Exige down on my list. So similar train of thought there. Only because I test drove one once years and years ago, and I had to peel myself into it and out of it. But it was an absolute hoot to drive for about 20 minutes. But that's all you need.
What do people think to the Evora?
Weird design.
Yeah.
For me, weird design. Yeah.
What, as in visually, or?
Yeah, visually. I can't get past it.
Oh, okay.
What about you?
There's something
you liking it?
Yeah, I kind of like it. I think that would probably be on my little top of the list for a sports car if a Porsche didn't exist.
How funny that we've all gone Lotus. That's really bizarre.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I'd go Lotus.
Incoming.
Here it comes.
I was going to say 458 Speciale. But is that a sports car, or is that blurring the lines? Is that too much?
I think you take that.
It's a sports car. It's just rubbish, though, isn't it? It's Ferrari.
Rubbish?
I just don't see Ferrari. I just don't get it at all. I really don't get it. But then I've never been in a Ferrari, so. But I just don't get Ferraris. No, anybody else, or am I by myself?
No, I personally, I don't get the Ferrari thing. It doesn't float my boat. I appreciate them. I think they're a pretty looking thing. I just got no desire to own one. But what's probably even worse than that is at some point, I really would like to own a Lamborghini. Yeah,
Lamborghini. Yeah, I'm there with the Lamborghini, but not a Ferrari.
Really? See, I find that quite funny because I think Ferrari is such a beautiful thing to look at. Sounds good, etc., etc. It's especially modern Lamborghinis. I just think they just look really odd. And I can't remember, I might have driven it. I think it was a clapped out Gallardo at one of those, turn up, drive 4 laps of some supercar, shed version of a supercar. And I mean, even like the offset of the pedals was all over the place. It feels like it wasn't a driver's car. Do you know what I mean? Which I suppose it possibly not these days. I don't really know about Ferrari, but just on that kind of Ferrari v Lamborghini thing.
Yeah.
And Andy, you're an engineer, mate. So I'm really kind of
Yeah,
surprised
I know,
that you said that.
I don't know. No, I probably insult people if I start talking about Ferrari people. So let's not go there. Don't want to do that.
Nothing wrong with opinions, Andy.
Yeah, could get you in trouble though.
Yeah.
With this Lambo thing, Andy, are you going full like Verde Mantis green spec or orange?
No. It would be much more subdued. It would be a classy Lambo for me. Yeah, I wouldn't
Is
be
there
going.
such a thing?
Well, yeah, I think there is. If you go for a subdued colour, and I think they can be classy. Don't need to be going Viper green or crazy orange and all that sort of stuff. Doesn't need it because it's got all the angles and everything, isn't it? And the sort of quite aggressive, and it doesn't need a crazy colour to.
What's the SUV Lambo?
Urus.
That's disgusting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just such an abomination, isn't it? It's just like, wow. Yeah. There's a few of them knocking around here, actually.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple floating around. So,
yeah, pretty grotty, aren't they?
Find an odd choice. Like if you're going to go SUV, it's mega money, and it's a Lamborghini. It's not a Lamborghini. It's just a very I don't get it.
Yeah,
don't get it at all. I like the little Lamborghini. I think it's the Huracan. It's the small one, and I think that could be. Is that Porsche alternative possibly in terms of size and sort of usage? Maybe I know
I think it's a 911 turbo alternative, isn't it?
Yeah, that's probably fair. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, VAG
I like
group as well.
Great sound as well.
Yeah.
Well, if it's VAG group, does that mean it's out? Because if Porsche didn't exist, then the connection.
Are
we okay?
We've got to keep that grouping because I think we'd lose half our options.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I'll shut up on that one. Sorry.
And our audience.
Yeah. I'd like to review my Lotus Evora and go back actually to Audi R8.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, I'd go early. The earliest
V8.
you could get the V8. The
Nice.
first year off the production line. I think that's really quite pure, gated gear lever.
Yeah.
Extremely usable as a sports car. I'd no way go any V10 or anything later than that, because then I just think it becomes all a bit garish and boy. Which is funny when I was just talking about Lamborghinis saying, yeah, I'm really screwed up, aren't I?
Yeah. Also, I'm just imagining this kind of sub-reality sort of world where we turn up to a Sunday morning drive.
Yeah.
Joe and I are there in our Lotuses, or Loti. Is it Loti? Is that the plural? So we're there in our Loti. And you turn up in yours and you go, oh, bloody hell, I'm not having that. I'm going home and getting my R8. Yeah, cheers for that. No offense taken.
It's an interesting one on the R8, isn't it? Because when that came out, in magazine terms, that was rightly being put up against 997 C4S and that kind of thing. And I really like the R8, and I've thought at times, God, it'd be nice to have an R8, wouldn't it? The gated box V8 or V10. It's got it's German. I like German cars. Got a lot of plus points, but I don't think I'd ever have one over a 911. And I guess that's the Porsche obsessive thing. It always have to be as well as, in which case it doesn't really fit. So I don't think I'm going to have one.
It was always the justification for me. I really liked when the R8 came out. I thought, what a great looking car. I think actually it's quite dated now, but I think it's when it came out, it was great, but you're still driving an Audi. And in my head, like Audi made like A4s and like reps cars, and it just they weren't a supercar manufacturer. And I think that was the struggle for me. It was just like, you'd always have to justify you might, if your key's on the table, it's like, oh no, it's an R8. It's not, and that's not what they're good for. So that was kind of my weird sort of barrier to the R8, I think.
Yeah, definitely get that. It's a mainstream manufacturer that turns its hand to a supercar, isn't it? Rather than a tailored supercar or sports car company.
Yeah. It's definitely in that modern classic space though, isn't it? I think they're quite special cars, I think. As I understand it.
I think, we discussed on, I think it was series 1 with our guilty pleasures, and I said I'd have one as a guilty pleasure. Yeah. But I don't know if I'd hold on to it. It might just be something to scratch the itch and that'll be it,
Yeah. I've said I was back in the day when I was living in Reading and I had the 997 for a few years. Really good friend of mine. His dad was going through stuff, Maseratis and Bentleys and Jags and all sorts of things. And he was changing his cars quite often. And I was a little bit envious of him. And I remember thinking, God, I kind of stitched myself up here because I've got the 911, which is the car I always wanted. And I don't want to let it go. And that means I can't try other things because I'd have to sell it if I want to try these other things. And I was a little bit envious of him running through all these interesting cars.
Grass is always greener though, isn't it?
It is. So I stuck.
What's the thoughts on the Mercedes GT? Because I quite like those, and I
like them. Good looking car.
I think it's a really good looking car,
Yeah.
and
you're all wrong.
Very, very sensible Porsche money as well.
How about the SLS?
Well, yeah, I mean that's
so much better than the GT.
Yeah, of course. I think I agree. I think just less obtainable, isn't it?
Okay. I
But
think the GT's rubbish.
Okay.
Yeah, GT's rubbish.
I think the AMG is a really handsome car. I think it's in that 911
You're wrong,
turbo
Max.
option again.
No.
I really like it.
Really? I'm going to have
Fixed
to look
head.
that up.
Andy's going to end up with the weirdest looking garage ever at this rate.
Mercedes
I think it
GT.
reflects his car history, doesn't it?
Oh, I've got some weird shit in there, haven't I?
So what did you settle on for your first one, Andy? So have you gone British so far? Have you got a Land Rover and a Land Rover and a Lotus? Has anyone got that? Or is that you, Joe? Have you got a Land Rover and a Lotus so far?
I said I would go
that was
Land
Joe.
Rover. So I suppose I've ended up staying local.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't think I came up with the daily.
No.
I'd probably go. No, I can't go Macan because we're not in the we haven't got the Porsche anymore, have we?
No.
No. I'd probably go. Yeah, for a daily, I'd probably go an SUV of some sort.
That's a really inspired choice, that Andy. I'm sure around the planet are going to be all inspired by what you've come up with there.
That's good consumer advice. Maybe a Kia Sportage then, Andy.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I do like the look at one of those. Lovely.
Well, it's a bit of a Cayenne rip-off, isn't it? So I guess that would look different if Porsche didn't exist because they wouldn't have been able to copy it.
It'd probably look like a Land Rover.
Probably would.
The other one on my list. So go on.
I've just bought Mercedes-Benz AMG GT up on my phone.
Yeah.
And it's just all bonnet, isn't it? And I don't really like cars that are all bonnet. I think that's the problem. That's why I don't like it. I don't like big bonnets. Anybody else? Or are you still loving it?
Well, what can you say?
I don't mind a big bonnet.
I think you've taken a strong position there and we've got to respect it.
Okay.
So you've written off like most cars then, I think. That's
I guess
that's okay.
so. Right, go on.
Well,
You
you
were
went
going to
like
say
this one then. The other one I put on my list was the Vantage. I quite like I know it's British again, but I quite like the Vantage. Both the previous model and the new one. I think they're both good looking cars.
The previous one's really iconically good-looking car, I think.
I
Yeah.
The
agree.
new one, that sort of fishy mouth, I'm not quite sure about.
Yeah.
It's growing on me. I think initially I was a bit no, and then it's definitely growing on me. But previous model I think is going to stand the test of time. I think that's still a good
Agreed.
looking car.
A V12 one with manual box.
Oof.
How nice would that be?
Yeah. They're meant to be an absolute animal to drive as well. I know a couple of people that ended up in those by chance, and they said they're absolutely phenomenal. Crazy bit of kit that is.
Very nice.
You do like Aston Martins, didn't you, Joe? You got a bit of a thing for them.
I do. I will. So I had a Vantage for 3 years, which was, for me, that's like a lifetime to own a car. And I absolutely loved it to bits. And highly recommend a Vantage. Like I think I've said before, it's not, when you're comparing it to what we're all in now, it doesn't do any of the things a sports car probably should do. But it's such a special thing to be in and to enjoy. So really like a Vantage. So definitely recommend that.
Suits you, sir.
What about some older stuff then? If we turn the clock back, what's your Sunday classic drive going to be?
Aren't we doing the retro thing first?
We can go retro first.
Let's go retro, yeah.
Okay.
Because I've got one for
I reckon
this.
Andy's got a long list of retro.
Do you reckon? Yeah, I do like a bit of retro. I'd go Quattro. And a Quattro. Short wheelbase, which
Nice.
almost feels like it was achievable many years ago. Absolutely not anymore, is it? I mean, you could actually pick one of those up a few years ago. Well, 20 years ago.
That was 20 years ago. I think that's a great choice.
Yeah, that's where I'd go. The 5-cylinder engine is just a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Group B and all that sort of, everything that goes with that.
Yeah, can't go wrong.
Cool.
It feels like there's been a little bit of a swell of interest in those sorts of things. There was a Group B collection that was auctioned earlier on this year, which was, I think, a Quattro, short wheelbase Quattro S1 went for sort of 1.8 million pounds or euros or something like that. It was that's quite exciting. And I don't know if you follow him, Paul Zuckerman over in the States.
Yeah,
he's
got red.
He's got that red one, and he posts some great pictures of that. Mega thing.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of that sort of stuff is heading over to the US, getting swallowed up, and because it's over 25 years old now, so they can import it really easily. So I think a lot of that stuff's going over there.
Is that the rule there? Is it over 25 years and you can take what you like without all the import jargon?
Yeah, you don't need to get the federal. I can't say it. It's one of those words I'm not going to be able to say. No, can't say it.
What does it mean? Put on the road.
yeah, basically, yeah. So I think you can do it under
the California thing. Is that a California thing?
I don't think. No, I think it's US overall.
Okay.
You probably know about this, Lee, don't you? Because of the 959. You know a lot about them. Is that?
I just make up as I go along, Max, to be honest with you, mate. Don't ask me.
Oh, dear.
It's actually, to be honest, that generally is quite a good subject for a future pod, is the whole history of Porsche and America, because, genuinely fascinating about the cars that they got that we didn't, and kind of more poignantly, cars that they never got but we did. It's definitely you could dedicate a whole podcast to that. What were you going for anyway, Max? What was your
ride?
Your retro ride.
This is something that's been on various fantasy garages of mine over the years. It's another sort of racing car, so it's not road legal. Is that right? But it is retro. I'd like a Group A E30 M3.
Oh, proper job.
I'm not sure if I want rally or touring car spec, but I'd like it to be a pro drive build, with some nice provenance. I quite like that. I suppose the advantage of it being rally spec is it could be road legal. I could be like Patrick Snyers in a Bastos liveried Group A E30 M3. That's what I'd like.
I think we'll only let you have that, Max, if you commit to wearing that shirt and tie while you're doing it, while you're driving it. That would be pro as you like.
I do every day. Wait till you see me on Monday.
Very good, very good.
I was surprised about the 4-cylinder engine there.
Well, yeah, but they sound incredible because they've got a hell of an induction roar. They do sound good. That's a fair point to pick me up on that. But that's an epic sounding car. If you look at old British touring car footage from 88, 89, the Pro Drive M3s, they sound mega.
I heard I follow an Instagram account called Vintage Audi, and they had one of the, it would have been one of the
quite
early,
niche, isn't it, Andy?
It is, yeah. Very niche. And they had one of the early Audi A4 touring cars, which was a 4-cylinder. And the noise that thing makes, I tell people to go and look that account up and look for the Audi A4 touring car. The noise is just amazing from a 4-cylinder. You wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they can sound good.
They can sound good.
Yeah. What's yours then, Lee? Retro.
Yeah. So I'm. Yeah, you can take the boy out of Essex, etc. Coming up.
Here we go. It's an Escort Turbo, isn't it? White.
I did consider that for the wing.
3-spoke wheels.
The RS Codsworth I was thinking of, but no, I'm going to go for the Mark IV Toyota Supra Turbo. Proper job. And it's actually just for a tedious Porsche link. It's actually, there was an auto option, I think, but the manual 6-speed was made by Getrag, which obviously makes gearbox for Porsche of the same time. So that's but I mean, obviously, Yeah, it'd be nothing to do with Porsche, obviously. It's just, I think they're cool. And growing up in Essex, there were a few of those floating around, and I've always been smitten by them. I'll probably drive one now, and it'd be like never meet your heroes, but just love them. Do you know what I mean? Just love them.
Would you have neons?
Yeah, why not?
Imagine Lee stereo in that.
Lovely job.
Graphic equalizer.
In all seriousness, I think there is Japanese car culture is absolutely massive, isn't it? You know, and from the Supras and the Skylines of the 80s and 90s, obviously that was the heyday. Before that, the NSX that really took the game to the European super sports car manufacturers, didn't it? Because it was that on a budget. The whole idea of Touge, spelt Touge, which is Japanese for like mountain pass and the nighttime drives that the guys and girls over there do. I mean, like Japanese car culture is massive. And I think that in anybody's garage, I think there should be at least a small kind of nod to that. It's an important part of the world for automotive.
So just so I'm thinking of the right thing, is this the Fast and Furious model Supra, the orange one? Is that it? Got
exactly
it. Okay.
That. Yeah, exactly.
I'm with you.
Exactly that.
I really liked that in the first Gran Turismo. You know, the Castrol Supra and some other great liveries. That was good in Gran Turismo. I liked it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm with you. I can't believe you've chosen that of everything in
the world.
In the world, but you know,
that's what I mean. It's
to their own.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be a shed, wouldn't it, to drive? But yeah, I love it. Find an absolutely hanging modified one.
Well, it would be a shed to drive, and you'd keep ripping your neons off the bottom because it would be so low, I imagine.
I love it.
The good old days.
I put a little bit of thought to it, and I couldn't come up with one, so I got a couple. But I've had a hankering for ages, and you're going to think it's ridiculous, but I quite fancy a classic G-Wagon.
Really?
Oh yeah, I do too. Yeah,
I've no idea why. I can't even, excuse myself from it. It's just one of those weird things. But I think a classic G-Wagon would be quite cool in the world of, there's loads of like footballers flying around in all these, super fandango new ones that I don't really understand. But I think the classic G-Wagon, I think is quite a cool thing.
It is a cool thing.
I reckon that'd be a fun hack. And then, alongside that, I reckon a Mark 1 Golf Cabriolet.
Yes, love that.
Nice.
And they did a couple, didn't they, that have like sort of specially, was it Rivière or something that did a
Rivage?
Rivage, or that sort of thing where it's sort of out the box. It was just nicely finished with all the bits and bobs. I think that'd be a cool.
I had a Mark 1 cab when I was 18.
Did you?
Had a Zender body kit on it. OZ Fittipaldi, 15-inch alloy wheels on it. Yeah, it was proper buoyed up. I'll post some pictures up of that.
Yeah. Did you knock your neons off? I probably nicked your neons.
No. It was classy.
Right, yeah.
Wasn't from
What colour was it, Andy?
Well, when I bought it, it was white with a white roof, but I had it resprayed in a dark blue. I can't remember what blue it was, but must have been the sort of VW blue of that time with the blue hood. So yeah, it looked pretty classy.
Did part of your Zender body kit include a grille with rectangular headlights? Rather
No,
than
mine had
lamps?
4 round headlights, and they were the big 7-inch.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I'll find a picture of that actually.
I love them. I have to admit, over my years of not being able to have a second car and wondering how I could, like maybe could I keep it at my mum's house or could I rent a lock-up? I've looked at Mark 1 Golf convertibles.
Yeah.
Because I was weaned on golfs. I love golfs. Yeah. They used to be really quite cheap. And I love them.
I did as a kid. I quite a few times ended up going to the VW action shows that were back then were massive. It was like the old 3 county showground, and it was just heaving with all that modified Golf era, and it was all properly modded Mark 1s, and Mark 2s were there, but Mark 1 Golfs were just, that was the one to have, and it was proper cool stuff.
Wasn't there in that scene, again, we've all kind of come from different dark corners of the kind of modified VW world, haven't we? But wasn't there a little bit of snobbery from coupe, like Mark 1 GTI owners looking down rather unfavourably on Mark 1 Golf Cabriolet owners? I vaguely remember.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, that was a straight divide that was. I mean, it's I think if you had a cabriolet, it was sort of called a skip, and you probably cut hair for a living. As if you had a tin top, then that was a proper GTI.
Right, yeah, that's mad, isn't it? Because today, Andy's shown us a picture there. I mean, that's a cool car, isn't it?
It's a cool car.
It's an enthusiast car.
Yeah.
Just undoing everything that I've said about only wanting 6-cylinder cars. The first car that I bought and owned that I really wanted, I had the stuff that you have to have because it's all you can afford and all you can insure and all that sort of thing. So the first car that I bought that I really wanted was a Mark II Golf GTI.
Oh, fantastic!
It was a really late one. It was a J. It was a J plate, so a really late car. Yeah. It was 5-door, black, 8-valve, and I'm not really one for modding. Certainly not doing mods myself. But this had already been modded, and that included some Spax lowering springs, which were no end of trouble. But what was really good was it had a K&N induction kit, and when I went on the test drive, I was sold straight away because I thought it sounded like a Gruppe touring car from the 1980s because the induction noise was so good, and I bought it, and it's brilliant.
That 8-valve engine is just unbustable, and
it's lovely,
lovely noise, lovely torque, great engine. I had a Mark II as well, G-Reg, just one of the early big bumpers. Great car.
Lovely.
It was interesting because I grew up as a kid in Mark II Golfs. That was my dad had back-to-back company cars, and they were only ever Golfs, and it was just back-to-back Mark II Golfs, and there was an odd Mark III at some point, but anyway, pretty much all Mark II Golfs. And he would often wait to the end of the run rather than the beginning, and then he would end up with a GTI or something a bit more special because it was whatever it was. Probably pre-lockdown, so end of last year sometime, a friend of ours bought a Mark II Golf, and I can't remember where we were, but anyway, long story short, on the way back he said, do you mind driving back this Mark II Golf that I bought? Oh, great. In my head, I had this Mark II Golf GTI on a pedestal of what I remembered as a kid. Jesus Christ. Yeah, you drive one now and it's just, it almost went in the shed category. It was,
rose tinted glasses.
Oh gosh, I wish I didn't drive it because it was in that box of sort of cherished cars that you kind of held regard for, and it all kind of went out the window, unfortunately. But still cool cars, I suppose. But it was a disappointment to actually jump back in one and be like, I'm sure I remembered it being faster and cooler than it was.
I'm quite relieved almost to hear you say that, Joe, because I sold mine because I started to get company cars, and in the end, I had a half decent company car. It was a Mark V Golf, so that was a good car. Yeah. And I just didn't use that. I think again, I was living in Reading, so I had to keep the Mark II at someone else's house. So I just didn't use it. In the end, I sold it for £1,050. They're worth a lot more nowadays. And for a long time, because I still go to VW Expo at Stoner Park near Henley. I still do a bit of the VW show thing. Yeah. For a long time, I thought, God, I wish I'd kept that. Yeah. I wish I hadn't sold it. I wish I still had it. But maybe it is better just to have the memories instead of something that's no good to drive.
Let it go.
Yeah.
I'm just having a quick look through my pictures of some old cars of mine, and on the same ssort of vein as the VW Corrado, which I know I always bring up. Yeah. And I've had 3 of those, and I just wonder if I wonder how good or bad that would feel if you were to drive one now.
Maybe don't do that exercise because you might disappoint yourself.
Yeah. Noted.
I've thought on and off about buying one of those over the years. Of course, a VR6 one.
Yeah.
And I think, wouldn't that be a nice car? I think at the time when my dad was trying to stitch me up, selling me his shonky 944, I was more interested in a Corrado VR6 because although it's front-wheel drive, it's 6-cylinder. That was more appealing to me at the time. But again, maybe that's something that's best left in the past. I don't know. Probably might still be great.
So, should we turn the clock back? What would be your proper classic Sunday afternoon drive?
Well, what would you go for, Joe?
I've stuck with the Aston theme. I'd love a DB5.
Yeah, I
think just pretty car. I think a DB5 would be amazing. But I know it's I'm going to stick with that DB5.
And just to pick up on popular themes, would you want an original spec one, or would you want a resto modded DB5?
not fussy right now, to be honest. I'll take either, but actually, I suppose given the choice, I'm quite divided there. I mean, I love something that's been played with.
Okay, I'm just thinking.
Here we go.
Oh dear, gee. It's only the middle of the week. Well, just on that theme. Excellent. On that theme, short-lived as it usually is. I would go Triumph TR6.
Oh, here he goes, the old Triumph.
Yeah, and yeah.
What's your name, Phil?
Phil Farrell, if you're out there and you're listening, I've got your back. Well, he's not listening because he never listens to Road to Redline unless he's on it. So, yeah. To be honest, the only reason I would kind of really go for that car as well is my dad has got one in his garage. It's in bits and it's on blocks. But I'd quite like it one day. So, Mailman, he doesn't even know what a podcast is, but at least I kind of feel like this has been thrown out into the public sphere and is therefore as good as nailed on now. So, I'll have that, please, Dad.
Noise.
That's a great looking car.
Yeah,
it's cool, isn't it? Like, I think it's quite a timeless look to it. Actually,
was it an Italian designer who designed the TR6?
I think it's Giugiaro. Something like that.
Okay,
but the exhaust is coming out the back.
Yes,
Just what a noise they make. Yeah.
And that's straight six, isn't it? 2.5 litre, something like that?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good sound.
Yeah. Cool car, for a bit of a bumble and that. But what about you boys anyway?
On that same vein, something that I've lusted after for many years would be an Austin Healey 3000.
Really?
If you're going real old school, because that makes an amazing noise again.
Yeah.
But that's only because you've prompted me with the TR6. What I actually had in my mind, it's always German in my mind, would be a Mercedes Pagoda, so SL.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, because I just think that at the time, the 60s, 70s, that car was so ahead of everything else. Everything else is a bit shonky compared to that. The engineering in it is just amazing. So, that's where my heart would be, I think.
It's a good choice.
Yeah, beautiful. That is. I've always had a weird thing for the old stack-like Mercs.
Me too.
Yeah, slightly later. I think they're quite a. It depends. If there's no price point sort of category, then you'd go top of the tree. But I think if you're into that sort of affordable, classic-y kind of area, then I think a stack-like Merc is super cool. I think that's a nice bit of kit.
Yeah, definitely. Go on then, Max. What are you saying?
Well, I'm afraid I haven't got anything in the affordable class. I feel like I'm being such a flash bastard with my choices, but because you didn't put a price limit on me, I'm going full throttle on this.
Yeah.
So something that was on my mind, and it's topical now, but I'm going to go through it, is a Merc 280 SE drop head coupe 3.5 litre V8. There's not much cooler than that. It didn't. I can't remember if it was when he was chatting to you guys last week. Ed Lovett's got a thing about those. I remember him saying recently. That's a really cool car, but they're really big money these days. I'm not sure how much, but £250,000, maybe more. I'm not sure, but I've always thought that was a really cool car. Yeah. But that's not my choice. My choice is a 1961 Ferrari 250 GT short wheelbase with an aluminium body, right-hand drive, maybe the Rob Walker car from 61 that Sterling Moss won the TT in.
You're definitely aiming high, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's always been my favourite Ferrari.
So you're going to end up with a garage full of Ferraris at this rate?
Well, I've got 2 Ferraris, but because I can't have a Porsche, so I'm diversifying.
So are you secretly a bit of a Ferrari man? If the powers that be and you had to jump ship, is that where you'd end up?
No, if I had to jump ship, I'd still go German. But in my fantasy world, as I say, I mean, one of my dream cars is a Grand Prix Bugatti from the 1920s. That's I do. That's why when I say I'm car enthusiast first and Porsche guy second, I do half mean it. But and because I grew up in that, for a time, Vintage Sports Car Club was, before Goodwood came along, that and the Historic Grand Prix Car Association was the centre of the classic car racing scene, along with some of those other clubs. So we only lived 20 minutes from Silverstone. So we'd go to, Vintage Sports Car Club meets on a Saturday, and often there'd have been a Historic Grand Prix Car Association test day on the Friday. So you'd get there on the Saturday morning, and Neil Corner, the British collector from the north, he'd be loading pre-war Auto Unions and Mercs into his bus, like Italian job-style bus that he used as a transporter.
Wow, cool.
And I'd, get weak at the knees. I'd practically fall over. That's mythical stuff for me. And then he'd be racing a pre-war Bugatti and then a post-war Ferrari Dino Grand Prix car. So, I was properly into that, into that stuff.
It was a good few years ago now. They're running an Auto Union in the pit next door at a track thing I ended up helping out with, and it was like just crazy. Just being anywhere near it, let alone listening to it and seeing it run on track, was absolutely bonkers. I think those
incredible.
things are mad.
Incredible. I remember one day at BSCC Silverstone, my old man's really into BRMs. He got a BRM thing, and Nick Mason has got a V16, or certainly had a V16 BRM. So that's a 1.5 litre 16-cylinder thing that never ran right back in the day. And he had this thing, and he'd been trying to get it running, and he had it. I don't think he was racing it. I think he just demoed it. The sound was just incredible. And my dad was practically in tears. I think he went up to Nick Mason afterwards and shook his hand. Because to see something like that and hear it, it's really special. It's easy to get a bit blasé, and I'm guilty of it. You go to Goodwood once a year, every year, and you see practically anything you can dream of and get to hear it, but that wasn't always the case. I'm talking 88, 89, 90. It was quite special.
I remember having a bit of a moment like that at Goodwood, actually. There was a number of 911s. I think there was a 74 RSR, some early sort of 2.7 RSs, and the sounds of those cars as they were just sort of dribbling past, as they were sort of come down the hill and then were going through the paddock sort of area, and the noises were just unbelievable. You feel like a bit emotional, so that it's so powerful, the noises. So I can see how your dad felt.
No, I'm with you on that one. That's a great sound.
Yeah. Should we have a little have we gone through everybody's
hang
choices?
on, I didn't actually do I did do my choice, sorry. Carry on. I'm about to burst into tears. Sorry, I'm welling up.
Has everybody done all their choices? Should we do a little recap?
Yeah. Very, very good idea.
Yeah. I thought I'd just go through mine quickly because I've sort of fluffed out in the daily, didn't I? Talking about SUVs and shit. But you inspired me with your later talk, and BMW 1M would be my daily.
Nice.
Yeah, good shout.
Have that. I think I stuck on my sports car would be an Audi R8, an early V8. My retro car from the sort of 80s and 90s would be an Audi Quattro, preferably short wheelbase, just like the one that what's his face has got over in the US.
Paul Zuckerman.
Paul Zuckerman's car, that'd be perfect. And then a 1960s Merc SL wafting spec.
Nice.
I'd have. Yeah, nice. That'd make a nice little garage. I'm happy with that. Right, who's next on their full rundown of their little garage?
Go on, then I'll jump in. So I think Daly somehow ended up in a Defender.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Defender. Not sure how that happened, but we'll take that. Short wheelbase, of course.
And that might actually happen, which is quite cool.
Yeah. Never say never. I think that could be on the cards potentially. And then I think we headed over to what was next? Retro.
Sports car.
Sports car. Yeah. So Lamborghini Huracan or Advantage, I reckon. It's got to be one of those two for me. What do we go? Retro was either classic G-Wagon for something a bit crazy. I'm going to have two of everything. Classic G-Wagon or...
Always on the fence.
Mark 1 Golf Cab. Come on, I'm allowed both. Yeah. I'm going to take those. And then what was the last one? Oh, the classic. I would be DB5. Yeah. Like we said, fettled or otherwise, don't mind.
Nice.
Lee?
Well, my rundown was, the daily was the E92 M3, wasn't it? Good all round. The sports car was a Lotus Elise Cup. I know there's loads of different iterations. Don't really care what one. The retro was a Mark IV Supra Turbo.
Oh yeah.
You live once, boys. You live once. And the classic was my dad's Triumph TR6.
Yeah. Good choices.
Right.
And our guest, Max.
Well, I've just had a little
it's
bit
highbrow, isn't it? Very highbrow.
I've just had a little panic about mine, actually. Feeling a bit anxious about it, but I'll come back to it. So I said...
You've just seen how many Group C posters you've got to sell together.
So I've gone RS6 Avant for the daily. Why not the latest one? Then I went 458 Speciale. And I think I'm actually going to say Speciale Aperta, so I can get the roof off, because I haven't got anything that you can take the roof off. And I quite like it. I see one on Instagram that's dark blue. And I think that looks really smart. So that's what I love for that. Then I'm a Pro Drive Gruppe E30 M3 rally or touring car. And then I got the Sterling Moss 61 Gruppe TT winning short wheelbase 250 Ferrari. So, but
totally achievable.
But the little moment of anxiety that I've had, because I get troubled by the details, even when it's fantasy, is that I'm sure you didn't used to be able to spec an RS6 with a tow bar, and I'm going to need a trailer for some of this stuff. So if I can't have a tow bar on the RS6, then the whole thing falls apart.
This is true.
Oh,
yeah.
So,
Max, I know a guy. Don't worry.
Okay, all right. And you can do the neons for me as well, yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know about you boys, but I think Max has seriously shown us up in terms of our garage choices. I mean, in terms of level of detail and, like you said, highbrow vehicles. That's I think
his ambition is big.
We need to start aiming a bit higher, I think. But thankfully, Porsche is still around, so we're all saved.
Yeah, oh yeah. It was all just a bad dream. Yeah, for a minute there, I thought I was driving around in a Mark IV Supra Turbo.
Auto.
Yeah, auto, yeah.
E-top.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Love it.
That's great fun.
Enjoyed that. Right, I think I reckon let's finish off with very, very quick. Yeah, it doesn't have to be super quick, but yeah, fairly quick rundown. So I've had this little plan for a while that I've been peddling. At some point, we're going to get lots of people involved about people buying a £1,000 banger of some sort that you've got to be able to get all the way to a European destination in, possibly get back. You either go there, sell it there and fly back, which might be easier, but it's got to get you there. And if there's enough of you going, obviously as they die as you go along, you jump in the next one and you just see how many cars end up there. So question to everybody, you got £1,000, it's got to get you to the middle of Europe and back, preferably. What do you go for?
Well, can I just step in and say that I've actually done this twice. I've been on 2 banger rallies and our budget was £100. This was 2006 and 2007.
I was going to
so
say,
a few
when was
years
this?
ago. But it was that budget car was £100. That was the maximum you could spend. Bit scary. Both times was in Audi 100 Avants that we managed to.
Oh, that's a cool car.
It was bloody amazing.
Yeah.
The first one was an Audi 100 Avant CS. So 4-wheel drive. It was almost like a bit of a special edition. And we picked it up off a mate for I think about £60. He'd bought it to basically for spare parts. And we managed to pick it up from him. That was a fantastic car. 5-cylinder injection. It was just amazing. Then the next one we bought was a 2.3 turbo, again 4-wheel drive. And this car had spent 8 years on a rugby pitch being used to move rugby posts around on the pitch each week. And all of the windows were smashed, so we had to put new windows in it. But we got that up and running and did the trip. But that one, it was so ropey. Basically, where it had been sat on the rugby pitch for so many years, all of the rubber had rotted. And we spent the whole trip fixing vacuum leaks and leaks in hoses and replacing fan belts. But yeah, it was good trips.
Good shout. So it did actually get there and back then?
The first one we drove all the way down to, where did we go to? Madrid. All the way down to Madrid, and that actually went into a scrapyard. And we were so sad about it. On the second time we did it, we actually drove the other one all the way back. And that was dressed up as a Starsky and Hutch car because it was red.
Sounds like we need to draw on some of your experience here, Andy.
Yes, yeah. It was. They were good times. Good weekends.
When you got it back, Andy, when you got the second one back, did you give it back to the rugby club?
No. It sat on my drive for about a year until some guy bought it. Yeah, it was a wasted journey really on the way back, but yeah, we enjoyed it.
Quality.
So yeah, I recommend doing that sort of thing. So £1,000.
So if you had to go again, what would what's £1,000? How far is that going to stretch, do you reckon, these days?
These days. It's difficult now, isn't it? What would you go for?
Scrappage killed a lot of these gems that would have done for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, yeah, I forgot about that, didn't they? Yeah, you could just give it in and they just, what was it? They give you a couple of grand, didn't they?
Scrappage.
For anything.
Yeah.
£2,000.
Yeah, that would have lost a lot.
What would I go for?
I just pulled up old eBay, and I'll tell you what, for £1,000, looking at finished auction type stuff, you can get into a lot of BMW for £1,000.
Really, yeah.
Maybe even something with something sort of 3 Series convertible, which could be fun.
Yeah,
Nice.
To be fair, I think on something like that, when you're touring as well, get the roof down, take something like exactly like that, and just enjoy the full-bodied experience of being on tour. I would, for just drawing on that, my choice would be a Mazda MX-5. I don't think for £1,000 you'd get a Mark 1 anymore. It'd be spares or repairs, but a little
Mark 2.
Mark 2, bang the roof down and off you go. If not, Andy's A2.
Yeah.
I tell you what, fun little talky car, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So you could even sleep in that. They're deceptively large inside.
I love that car. That car, Andy. Yeah. I tried to order an Audi A2 as my first company car.
Did you?
It was on the list, and I thought I was going to get it, but then they managed to find they found a Mark IV Golf 1.6S out of the pool and made me have that instead. Oh. I was gutted. Absolutely gutted. I test drove it at Audi Reading and everything. Wow. It was really cool. I love them.
Yeah, a good little classic they are.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
What would I go for?
So
come on, go on, Max, go on.
My first thought, but I don't think it's probably possible for £1,000, was Porsche 924. Can you get a shonky 924 for £1,000?
Oh, maybe just about. I have no idea.
Probably could.
Might get the rear end. I would not sure about the front with the engine in, but
so if not that, because I'm not mechanically minded, I thought Japanese as well, Lee, but I wasn't quite so glamorous as you. I was thinking like an Almira or a Bluebird or a Primera or an Accord or I don't know. An Accord. Yeah, I'd love a Honda Accord.
Yeah. Highly likely to get you there and back as well, I'd say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, here's a little gem. £950 will buy you a 2007 Saab 9.3 convertible.
Oh, yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I tell you what, talking back to our previous conversation in sort of a retro car, and Saab 900 convertible, the old with the big round windscreen. Yeah.
Very cool.
Always fancy one of those.
I never knew you could buy so much car for £1,000.
I'm just having a quick look to see what convertibles are. Oh, an Audi A4, 2.4 V6, 2003.
Nice. That's a handsome car.
Quid.
Yeah.
That's a very handsome car. 6-cylinder as well.
Yeah.
Proper car, that is.
That'd be all right. Yeah. I had an Audi 100 with that 2.4 engine in. They're really good. The small V6, pretty economical, very smooth, obviously not crazy powerful, but a nice car to drive.
Andy, what's the deal if you're abroad and scrapping cars? Because obviously we're playing a risky game here in getting sheds for £1,000, so there's no guarantee of like them getting to the destination. So you wouldn't then spend a load of money recovering it if you get stuck in the Dolomites somewhere. So what? Because you were saying you've done it previously. So what's the word on?
We just literally drove into a scrapyard and handed over the keys.
Right. Okay.
And the guys that were organising the event had actually pre-organised it with a particular scrapyard.
Right. Okay.
So there was like a big gang of us, sort of 30 cars, just arrived on the Tuesday morning, and we all gave over the keys and the logbook and walked away.
And that was
they thought it was bloody amazing. They just got 30 cars in stock.
Yeah.
So there's no dramas in getting rid of them.
Okay, fine. It's just if you get stuck, like say halfway. So that was prearranged.
Yeah.
But if you're stuck halfway, like say, there was to repatriate it home, but obviously you can't just leave it at the roadside. So.
And there was a few cars that died on the way, and I think they did literally just went to the local scrapyard and they got towed them there and just they were gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in this country, don't people just rip the number plates off and leave it?
Yeah.
I thought that's what they did. That's what seems to happen. Not that I'd condone that, of course.
Yeah. I've just found a great little one. Mercedes SLK for 995 quid.
Nice. What, 230 compressor?
230 compressor.
No way would it get you there. That's just the bill for trying to do 5 miles in the thing, I think.
Front wings are going to fall off, aren't they, with the rust from that sort of age of Mercedes.
Yeah.
There's quite a few Volvo C70 convertibles.
Hey, that's nice as well.
That's got to be a good solid car to get you there, surely. Keep going on forever.
I think the ruling should be that it's got to be a convertible.
I agree.
As part of the event.
Got to add convertible then to the list.
Yeah. That is a prerequisite. So it's 100 under £1,000 and it's convertible.
Yeah.
With that Volvo, you might be able to get a 5-cylinder. They did a 5-cylinder, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Did that come in that? That would be nice.
Yeah.
If that's possible.
Nice little thrum.
Yeah.
I wonder, do you think there needs to be 4-seaters? Do you reckon that needs to be part of the ruling?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I was just thinking as well. I'm the only one that's managed to choose it. You're still faffing. I'd have welded my diff up by now as well. So.
And lowered it.
Yeah, exactly. Just chop the springs as well. There wouldn't be any new springs involved.
I swear that's what had been done to my Mark II Golf. It was definitely a dodgy lowering job. It wasn't good. There's a lot of arch rubbing and. But I felt that there shouldn't have been. It wasn't good. But it looked cool. Looked cool and sounded good. That was the main thing.
Yeah. What did the salesman say? I was corner weighted. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they all do that, sir. They all do that.
I think he saw the look in my face and realised he didn't have to do anything. He realised he had me. Yeah. He had me at hello. I thought, this idiot's going to buy this.
Yeah.
Just found a Mark 1 MX-5 for £750.
Is that on Gumtree?
Yeah, on Gumtree.
Mature lady owner.
Yeah, how did you know?
And she comes with it for the trip.
Yeah. Previous uncle owner from 1999. Do you know this advert?
Yeah.
Or is this the one that you've just found?
Yeah. No, that's my aunt, actually. I love how like as if that would make a difference. Mature lady owned last 10 years. Previous uncle owner from 1999. That's fantastic. Yeah, brilliant.
Oh, the rear arch looks a bit dodgy. Oh my God. Jesus.
I tell you something you guys were talking about the other week that I was interested in was the early Boxster thing.
Yeah.
Because I was I've got this ongoing debate in my mind. I say this as an assumption. I've got this ongoing debate in my mind about whether I sell the 997 or not.
Yeah.
And if I do, I thought, God, could I have a little bit of fun with a cheap Boxster for a while? Because I've never had a drop top. I quite like the idea of a drop top. And you were talking about how cheap a Boxster could be the other week, weren't you?
Yeah.
Did you do any eBaying and find anything or get any ideas of prices?
Yeah, didn't we? I can't remember what we got to on it.
I think we all determined that they're actually going up in price now.
Do you honestly,
the good ones.
They are
100%.
Yeah,
some of them
not
go
cheap
for,
anymore.
They're going for relatively kind of big money for those cars.
Actually,
have you seen the one
went on? Topical with the last week's pod, but there's one that went on collecting cars. Went for, was it 7-ish?
There was. I think there was one on there. Or was that just for sale? One for a specialist was definitely up for 11,995. which we spoke about. Yeah. And then actually there were two up for 11,995 and one was an auto. So, but they're definitely north of the £1,000, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Have you seen the one for 20 grand?
No.
At a prestigious North London classic car dealer.
Yeah.
They've got, a lovely low mileage immaculate one, but it's 20 grand.
It's
not for me. It's not for me.
Yeah, with a car like that, as cool as it might be, and they are a cool, fun car, you've got to look at what else you can get for that money. And at £20,000, there are a lot of seriously cool options, And I think if you're looking at a sports car for 20 grand, I don't even think a Boxer would be on the first page for me. Just being realistic there, a 986. They're a cool car, but not at that price. No way.
Right. I found the car for Lee. I'll just show you it.
Oh no, mate! Look at that. That's terrible.
What is that?
That's a Nissan Micra.
A Nissan CC convertible. Yeah, Nissan Micra in beautiful pink. £750.
As most of them were. Most of them were in that pink, I think.
Yeah.
Does it come with the mature lady owner?
It says it needs fixing up.
What the car? Or?
No, I'll read. This is brilliant. I'll read it. Pink Nissan Micra CC convertible. Excuse me. Car is still working, but no back-end exhaust and damage to bodywork. Would need fixing up, but it's an absolute lovely car that's been loved by me and my mum. But we now have new cars, and it looks like it's been in every car park that it's ever been in. It's had the corners taken off of it. Fully loved. Yeah, what a peach.
It's no MX-5 with a welded diff, though, is it? So,
so I'm liking the idea of this £1,000 rally somewhere, and it's got to be a convertible. Who's up for it?
Are we actually going to? Yeah, I was going to say we're going to actually end up doing this. I feel like this has got to happen now.
I think it should.
We'd love it to happen. I think we've toyed with it for a couple of years. I know it got mentioned quite a while ago, and there was a bit of enthusiasm, and then I think we had COVID and whatever else, and I don't know, I think it'd be a good fun giggle to do.
Yeah.
Is it? Obviously, we like doing the podcast because it's a bit of escapism and whatnot, but there is the cold hard reality of the world at the moment, and I think the government's just about to slap a £5,000 fine on going abroad on a jolly. So is it a case of wait and do it abroad, or is it like do it now and do a UK thing? Or
I tell you what, a UK version could be a shout. Are you allowed to go across the old, what do you call it, to Northern Ireland? Is that allowed?
The Irish Sea, yeah, possibly, yeah.
And that might make it a bit much, but maybe you got to drive up and up and up and see if you can get to the other end of the country.
See how far you can get.
Yeah.
To be honest, knowing our luck, the car, I'll probably pick up a car at like John O'Groats. The tour will start in Bournemouth, and I'll probably break down in Birmingham on the way down to start it, just to drive all the way up again. So, or somebody will. So yeah, that's cool. I think let's do it, shall we?
Let's work on this. Yeah.
There's a plan in there somewhere.
I think maybe a good seed.
Yeah, maybe with a view to popping an invite out to not every Patreon, unfortunately, because obviously not all of them are in the UK, but you can't. The more cars you have on things like that, the more there is to just go wrong, really, isn't it? So if we keep it to a sensible number of cars and maybe invite our Patreons along if they'd like to join, I think that's quite a cool thing to do.
Plan.
Yeah,
awesome, cool. Cracking.
Right, we'll develop that one and come back with more, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Max, as our guest panelist, as you were for today, to talk all things not Porsche, we had a ban on it, but it was great for you to share your Porsche history for sure. Obviously, best of luck with Group C. Hope people listening go and check it out. We better finish with your 10 questions, hadn't we? Which we bestow upon everybody. It would be a shame to not do it to you. So,
all right.
Don't know if any of the boys have got the questions.
I can grab them ready. Have you got them to hand, Andy?
I've got them to hand.
Quality.
Or I can find them. I don't mind.
I'm ready. Are you ready, Max?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Air or water?
Water.
Your favourite Porsche model?
993 RS.
Oh, nice. Favourite Porsche colour?
Basalt black.
Who is your ultimate Porsche icon?
Derek Bell.
God, you're quick on these, aren't you? Your favourite track?
Spa.
Tafuk or not Tafuk?
Not.
Ooh.
Would you
Doing
stock?
so well.
Sorry?
I said he was doing so well at that point.
Stock or hot rod?
Stock.
Narrow or wide body?
Narrow.
Do you cars and coffee or track day?
Cars and coffee.
And lastly, do you do back seats in a 911?
I have to.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Good stuff.
I
Like
do.
that.
One last thing, Max. I think you said you were going to do a giveaway.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I thought of it when I was listening to your podcast with Mike Wiles the other day, and he was talking about driving the Kenwood 956101. And
Yeah.
I've got a great print. It's the second print that you and I worked on for Group C, actually. It's from a picture that I took at Goodwood Speed Week of that 956 and the Rothmans car parked next to each other. Hugh did some photoshopping on it. It's a really nice shot. I actually gave a copy of it to Trev Crisp, my Group C friend. It's a really nice picture. So I thought, an A2 print of that in a tube, so it can go, to anywhere in the world, and any listener who gets selected at however you guys want to do it.
Awesome. Thank you. That's very generous.
Pleasure.
We'll have to work out the details on that one and get that out shortly then.
Yeah.
Cool.
And just give us a reminder of your Instagram handle, because everyone's going to want to go and have a look at your stuff again, Max.
So the Instagram is Group C, but it's the German spelling of group, GRUPPE, and CSEE.
Perfect.
And my more established Instagram is at Max Ripcore. That's got all sorts of good stuff on it as well.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, guys.
Nice one, Max. I told you he was a nice chap, didn't I?
Yeah, bloody nice. Yes. Yes.
Tops.
It was actually, I don't know if we actually said in that in the whole interview, but he was wearing a shirt and tie for the whole interview. Looked very smart.
Very
I mean,
smart.
who the hell is wearing a shirt and tie at the moment in this COVID world? I don't know of anybody. What?
That's very true.
Yeah.
There must have been jogging bottoms or worse going on down below, surely.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah, no one's going full morning suit at the moment, are they? So,
No.
But Max, it was a pleasure to have you on, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
It brings us on to the upcoming final episode of Series 3. We're then going to have a couple of weeks break, aren't we, before we get on Series 4, which will be the return of us doing the pod in person, which would be really
Fingers
nice.
crossed, yeah.
Yes, Series 3, it's been a bit like the Premier League football at the moment, where everyone's kind of playing behind closed doors and whatnot. It's kind of felt a little bit like that, hasn't it? So it's been fun to do, but definitely looking forward to seeing you boys again. And yeah, Joe, you've come up with a brilliantly crazy idea to finish off Series 3. So,
well, we're not sure it's going to be brilliant yet. We're certainly going to give it a go, aren't we?
Could be funny.
Well, yeah,
it will definitely be funny.
Yeah.
So the general plan and gist is that we're going to go for an all-out open Zoom session where anybody can join. We're then going to live stream this to YouTube, which will have live comments so everyone can watch it. The idea being that people can ask questions, be waiting in the Zoom room to be then invited in onto Zoom, and we'll chat live with members of the pod. So yeah, an all-inclusive pod ending for Series 3, if that makes sense.
That's the theory.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We just wanted to get everybody involved, didn't we, for the final, hopefully anyway, the final virtual Road to Redline podcast.
Yeah.
Get everybody on.
That's going to be next Friday, isn't it? Which is, what date's
Friday, the
2nd of April. Good
2nd
Friday.
of April. Oh, it's Good Friday.
of April.
That is technically a bank holiday. So, I mean,
Yeah.
It'll go one of two ways. We'll either have everybody swamping where they're absolutely up for it, or nobody will join in because it's a bank holiday.
Yeah.
So,
Well, technically, it's still a lockdown weekend, isn't it? So everyone will probably be scratching around at home for something to do. So hopefully Friday evening, grab a drink or two and join us for a fun-filled evening.
what time's kickoff?
30,
Yeah.
right? 7:30 it is then. 7:30. You heard it here. So we're going to go live on YouTube, and there will be some details circulated around social media, Instagram, etc., for you to join the Zoom room if you want to be talking live on the podcast. Otherwise, you can just watch us live on YouTube.
Awesome.
Cool. Absolutely nothing can go wrong.
Yeah, it'll all be great.
It'll all be fun and games. So we hope to be joined by people listening then. So until then, take care.
Goodbye all.
See you later.
You've been listening to Road to Redline, the #1 Porsche and Car podcast, fueled by our generous Patreons. If you'd like to join in supporting the podcast, please see patreon.com/Road to Redline and find us on Instagram.